Hi, there's something that you've been navigating around. You know what it is. Your spouse probably knows also, even if neither of you actually have said it out loud yet and spoken about it. Maybe it's money, the way it gets spent or saved or not saved. Maybe it's a pattern in your marriage that keeps going over and over again, keeps repeating the same argument, just packaged in different clothes. Maybe it's how you feel about where you've ended up, where you thought you'd be by now. Maybe it's something one of you did or didn't do or keeps doing that never gets fully addressed. Maybe it's a need that's been going unmet for so long that you've stopped believing that it's even important. You haven't brought it up. You've told yourself it's not worth the hassle, not worth fighting about and arguing about. Or maybe that it'll just sort itself out in time, or just ignore it and hopefully it goes away. Or then you're not sure how to even initiate the discussion. If I'm honest, this is what I see and have seen couples doing. The real reason is way simpler than all of that. Simply, it feels risky. You don't know what's going to happen next. So you don't open that door. It stays closed. And the issue just keeps growing stronger and stronger. Hey, I'm Coach Shaun. This is week 17 of the marriage we're building now. This week is about the hard conversations, the ones that we kind of put off all the time. In Proverbs 27:6, it says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Wounds from a friend can be trusted. Wow, that lands hard, but it's honest. An enemy will always flatter you, tells you what you need to want to hear, not what you need to hear, but what you want to hear, and keeps it comfortable. A friend, on the other hand, a real friend, will say the hard things, will tell you the hard truths, not to wound you and hurt you, but because they care enough to be really honest with you. And that's what a good, solid marriage is supposed to be about. Two people who trust each other enough to say and talk about the difficult things. Not perfectly, not without a certain amount of anxiety, but enough. Just to say enough. I want to say something about avoidance that I don't think it's said enough. Avoidance is a reasonable short term strategy. It keeps the peace. It sure does. It gets you through the week without something blowing up and having to live with conflict. And in a season of real crisis, when you really just trying to survive, sometimes you table the hard things, you put it away, hide it in a cupboard because you genuinely don't have the energy for it right now. And hey, that's okay. I get it. But avoidance has a compounding effect. Every week, the hard conversations don't happen. That topic just gets a little heavier. a little more energized, stronger. The approach feels even riskier now, and the gap between you on and that topic quietly grows wider and wider. And the thing that most people don't call out about avoidance is that it costs you intimacy, real connection, real closeness, the kind that we've actually been building over the past few weeks. It requires both people knowing they can bring the hard things to each other because they are confident, because they're secure in the relationship, because they're working towards that closeness. The marriage should have no topics that are off limits, not permanently anyway. And therefore, your marriage is strong enough to hold and to carry a strong conversation, an honest conversation. It really, that's what it is. It's just, can I be honest with you? When there's a thing that you've been avoiding, it doesn't disappear from the marriage. It doesn't disappear from your relationship. It kind of goes covert, it goes underground, and it starts to shape your interactions without either of you actually putting a finger on it. You begin to have a slight edge in your voice when anything near that topic begins to arise. It reveals itself in the way you deflect, the guard or the defenses that stay slightly up because somewhere inside of you, you know there's unfinished business, or you're anticipating that this pattern is going to happen again. I remember a couple that I coached on a retreat weekend. Well, I was coaching a bunch of couples, and there was one couple, they said, we never ever have arguments. And I flagged that because I said, that's great. I mean, who doesn't want that? But I felt like maybe to me, that's always a flag. Is like, then there's no real communication going on. And I asked a few questions that they should discuss as couples amongst themselves. And they came back after going alone and talking about those things. And what had arisen was some of the things that had actually been hidden and had gone covert and now was arising. And now they had the hard conversation. They survived it. I mean, in a, I don't want to say controlled environment, but in the right, safe environment where the discussion is facilitated, it always helps. And so they were able to discuss those things that they were unhappy with and cleared the air, got rid of those, had the hard conversation and got rid of those topics, which was great. What you need to understand is that hard conversations, these kind of raw, honest discussions, are not the enemy of a great marriage. Avoidance is the enemy. That's the thing. Avoidance is. So, where do you start? How do you initiate this? The way into a hard conversation is almost never to wait until you feel everything is perfect. until you're ready, the environment is ready, the mood is ready. Don't wait for that, because you won't be ready. You'll never be ready. I've never met a couple that said, we just waited and suddenly we both felt ready to have this conversation. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but hardly ever, because it's not how it works. You decide the marriage is worth the discomfort of having the hard conversation. And then you start. You initiate before you figured out exactly how. And you can do something like, I don't know how to bring this up, but there's really something that I have on my heart, and I want to tell you what it is. That's enough to start right there. It's just being brutally honest. Your spouse can probably put their finger on what it is before you even finish the sentence. And a few things that will always help. Let's be practical about it, because these are the ones that actually can make a difference in the moment. Is choose a calm moment, not in the middle of an argument. Don't begin to throw the mud in the midst of a conflict situation, a tense situation. And also not when one of you is already stressed, tired, hungry, and exhausted, fatigued. That's not a good time. The tension and emotional tension rises very quickly. A moment where there's actual space for a real conversation, when things have calmed down and the environment, that is got to be kind of read the room in that sense, is like, okay, this is a good time for us to talk about it. We both calm, we both relaxed, we both in a situation we can talk about it. And then lead with your feelings, not their failures. That is important. It's not a time to be saying you always, and we all make that mistake, including me. You always do this. You know what you do. That is like judgmental and indictment on the person, and it's going to be countered with defense immediately. Rather, it should be, I feel like. It still is sensitive, because I make you feel like that I don't want to, but most of the time people realize it if given time. But yeah, so lead with how you feel. I'm feeling like, not you always. That's not the way to go. The one shift, that shift changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. It immediately puts the onus on you rather than on them. Say what you need, not just what's wrong. There's a difference between I need, which opens a door of opportunity, to you never, and that shuts the door to any initiative in that area. And then give each other permission to be imperfect. You don't have to do this perfectly to do it. It's not about being perfect. It's okay if you get it wrong. I'm just feeling like I need, and it's, and I'm not looking for a perfect approach, whatever it is. Imperfect and honest always beats polished and avoidance every single time. Let me say that again. Imperfect and honest beats the polished, absolutely perfect approach, or the avoidance rather, every single time. I want to tell you something about the other side of a hard conversation. the honest conversation, because I think it's one of the most underrated feelings there is in the long marriage, the relief. A couple a few years ago contacted me. They were having a problem. It was actually quite a crisis in their situation. And I spent time first with the husband, and then the wife came a little later in the week. And I sat down with them and I took them through a whole day, well, not a whole day, a whole morning of looking at those areas, not specifically highlighting, but what it did was, as we went through the framework that I use, it highlighted areas that needed addressing and some needs, some areas that weren't being addressed honestly. And um, at the end of the workshop, let's call it, together, or the encounter together, they went off and spent the evening talking through some of those issues. And they were able to come to an agreement. And we're talking a few years now, and they happily married, doing wonderful things together. So the whole point of it is there's a particular kind of closeness that comes from having had those discussions, which opens up the communication. It starts with communication and it ends with better communication. All closeness comes from good communication. And then having your spouse in that secure place. So you're looking to secure the relationship, not damage it. And when you have hard conversations and you have that heart, you find that relief at the end of it, because now you've been able to address things that actually block true and pure and transparent and authentic and intimate communication. And therefore, you will have intimate closeness. And your spouse will still be there, still in the room, still choosing you. Closeness doesn't come always just from nice conversations and easy conversations. Some of the things that the rocks in the marriage need to be dealt with, especially in that area of hard conversations, which is communication. I mean, I come right down to the fundamental part of all of this always is the communication side of it. And those that have the courage and take the courage to talk it through find it's worth the discomfort of getting to the place where there is intimate closeness and deep, intimate connection. So, here's another practical approach I'd like you to take this week, a challenge to you. And it's another written one, because writing it makes it a little easier and helps you fashion your thoughts. Write down the one conversation you've been avoiding. One, just one, not all of them. One conversation you've been avoiding in one sentence. And start it like this: I need us to talk about this. Then write what you're actually afraid will happen if you have the conversation. What are you afraid of if you have the conversation? Not what you think your spouse will say, but what are you afraid of? And then show your spouse both sentences, not the whole conversation, not all the history, just the sentence and the fear underneath it. Because naming the fear together out loud between the two of you is often what makes the conversation easier and more possible. That one step alone is what I want you to do this week. One thing. Write it out. What your need is and what your fear is. The conversation, remember this, the conversation that you've been avoiding is not going away. It doesn't have to keep costing you what it's costing you now. Covertly eating into your intimate conversation, your intimate communication and closeness. There is more in the book for week 17, the devotional book, 52 weeks of devotion for married couples in the long years, the marriage we're building now, it's called. And also, if you go over to Substack, the marriage we're building now, the link will be in the description. You can also get this week's article on that, on this talk specifically. I explained it maybe just a little bit more. And if you subscribe, you get a free copy download of 6 pillars for the marriage we're building now. Thank you for being with me. And I'm Coach Shaun, and I will see you next Friday for week 18.